What challenges are you seeing with agency senior leadership at the moment when it comes to sales?
Every year, there's new agencies coming on board, new agencies being created, and then very quickly, those same agencies start repeating the same mistakes that the agencies before them made, and so new business continues to be the same problem.
It's not the natural skill set, is it?
If we ask this big question, we get a much, much more interesting answer.
We're going to spend time having conversations, so getting very, 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 very good
Always
conversations, not presentations. You're listening to the Agency Intensive Podcast. I'm Richard Hill, your host, and today I'm joined by Hutchinson from the Hutch Consultancy. We try to answer the agency world's oldest question, how to win profitable clients without wasting time on losing pitches. You're going to like this one. We unpack the 4 conversations, pricing without surprises, and revenue above budget, and so much more in this one. Very, very actionable, plain spoken, and usable, more importantly. Let's go. Enjoy this episode. Well, thank you for coming in. Welcome to the Agency Intensive Podcast.
No, thank you. Pleased to be here.
It's a topic that I think most agencies, agency owners, founders probably go to bed many a night thinking about the sales piece. I think, I've been doing this for far too many years to mention, but 16-ish years, and probably sold every single thing in this business for the first 7 or 8 years, and then hired somebody, failed miserably. Sorry to that person, but they were great. They're actually a really good friend of mine, but they weren't from this background. They sold different things, and then I then got passed back the baton of sales for many, many years, and then tried for a long, long time to master this sales piece around bringing other people into the business to free up my time to grow the business. And I guess here we are 16 years later, I think with a lot more success than those stories, which we may dive into. But thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, looking forward to it. It should be fun.
It's a topic, I think, as I said, that most agency founders sort of top 2, top 3. It's there, isn't it?
Yep,
I think
every time.
So yeah, welcome to the show. So what challenges are you seeing with agency senior leadership at the moment when it comes to sales?
I think it's you've just touched on it, but it's new business, it's pipeline, it's not making enough money, lack of profitability.
It sounds horrendous.
Right. But I think these are the things that people are still worrying about. I know, like the last couple of years I feel like they've maybe been tougher than previous years, but I think it's the same. I don't think there's any big new problem. Other than maybe the environment's slightly tougher right now. But the age-old problems of making money and making money profitably. They're the big challenges, I think.
I'm sort of here. I think it's that not a lot of new, but the reality is I think you maybe got to be a little bit tougher skinned than maybe in a couple of years ago. I think when I speak to agency founders, it is very much a similar conversation when I see, go to these different events and, how's things? Well, and you think, we had this same conversation a year ago. And some people sort of are used to the sort of those sort of quite cyclical things that come around and those difficult times, but others that are maybe not been in it as long are a bit like, blooming heck, it's hard work, isn't it?
Well, I think I was just going to say, actually, because you have, why is it this age-old problem? And I guess you have the people who've been around the block a few times, if you don't mind to let yourself.
Cheers.
You know what I mean, though. But also every year, there's new agencies coming on board, new agencies being created, and then very quickly, those same agencies start repeating the same mistakes that the agencies before them made, and so new business continues to be the same problem. And I do think there's, I think maybe just especially thinking about those newer agencies that start up, are they set up with a solid idea in mind, or are they just sort of there's sort of a bit of a copy.
You see it, don't you? The new guys on the block, and obviously the barriers to entry in this industry are minimal, really. You build a website, you have a passion for a particular, whether it's SEO, performance, web design, and you go, and you no doubt get a client or two from your mates or your dad's friends who've got businesses. It's going back. It's probably where a lot of people start. With a couple of projects, and then we've got a bit of money coming in. And we've got a few clients, and then we're going to be we're going to focus on getting this stuff done for these people. And then you get that bit done. Hang on a minute. We maybe haven't got any more. Oh, new business. Where's the new? Oh, hello. And then we go again. And it's like this hamster wheel of, in the early days for sure. And maybe many years later, trying to get that balance of the doing and the selling, and then passing some of that, obviously, as you start to build your head count. Yeah.
There's so many businesses, and we've talked about it before, there's something like 25,000 agencies out there in the UK alone. And it's, that makes it tough. And I think when these, obviously we're talking about all kind of creative businesses here and agencies, but I think sometimes when those newer ones come online, they think, oh, it'd be a great idea to set up this company. And it's just, maybe with a couple of mates, let's start an agency. But I don't think they often realize quite how competitive the market is.
More than ever.
Yeah. And then to your point, and it's the same for myself as well, in terms of when I set up myself 2 years ago, the first couple of bits of work you win, they're usually from some friendlies.
Yeah.
They're people who are happy to give you a bit of a helping hand. Not that they don't need your help, but they're more likely to hire you. But very quickly you have to start finding work from people who aren't so friendly, and that's where the challenge comes.
Big difference, isn't there, between you've got some work coming from somebody or family friend and so forth, and that's great. That's great. Well, maybe I don't know. I have a slightly different rule on that. I'm not a massive fan of working with friends and family, and I usually sort of pretend I don't do what I do, so I don't have to do the thing for the. I try to keep it a little bit separate. Obviously, the odd exception. But then, as you say, then winning a bit of fresh business from somebody that has never heard of you maybe 3 months ago, to then maybe seeing you, and then obviously we'll talk about our process in a lot more detail shortly. But basically winning a bit of business from a complete stranger of 2 months ago, whole different game from this bit of business. And that's a big moment.
Right?
That's that gets the goosebumps going for me when you meet somebody for the first time, and then, over a period of maybe, hopefully a few weeks, maybe a few months, quite likely, they become a brilliant client. That's such a feeling. Obviously, winning it off your dad's mate, that's cool too, but that comes with all different challenges. But
I had one the other day, actually, an agency based in London, and they've been sort of on my list for a while. I have met the owner a few times, and I reached out to him probably 2 years ago to say, look, I knew him from my, when I was the MD of an agency. But anyway, he knew what I was doing. But I've just been gently there in the background on my LinkedIn posting and this and the odd meeting here and there. But today's, now is not the right time. Got an email from him last week, and it was just said, now, what did it say? It was something like, now's the time.
That would have put.
And that was the subject of the email. I'm ready for you. And it was just like, it was so cool, but it took probably 2 years for that email to drop. But it just shows why you just have
that's the reality, guys, of this business. So you said, obviously there's so many agencies out there. And I think something you said to me when we last met up was, there's more agencies in the UK than there is McDonald's.
I think it's really important to. Sometimes we talk about how many agencies are in this competitive market out there, but sometimes you just need a bit of context in terms of bringing that to life. Now, my maths are probably a little bit iffy, but it's somewhere in there. But there's 25,000 agencies, something like 1,500 McDonald's in the UK. There's another comparison I make with coffee shops, and something like 5,000 big brand coffee shops compared to 25,000 agencies. I mean, when I think of it that way, that's the one really. I think I can be in London and see a coffee shop in every corner, and then I think, oh my gosh, there's 5 times the amount of agencies.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is so true. So pitching, obviously, ultimately, you've got to get quite good at pitching as an agency owner, founder, I think, we spent a lot of time working together over this last year and working with our team, so thank you for that. But, why do you believe agencies waste so much money and time pitching for business?
It's a good question. I think fundamentally, pitching is gambling. If I really think about it, your chances of winning a pitch are slim. If you're in a 3-way pitch, we can talk about the stats in a minute, but best case scenario in a 3-way pitch, you've got a 33% chance winning. I don't believe that's the case, but 5-way pitch, they're not uncommon.
Yeah.
best case, you got a 20% chance of winning. And it's just, and the reality of those numbers are that's not even true, because what we know, the way those, I think about these things is there's always one business in a pitch that has the advantage.
Yeah.
Always one.
Yeah.
I've been on the end of, I've been successful in pitches when I knew I was that one. I'm sure I've lost many when I wasn't that one.
Yeah.
The reality is there's probably one agency, let's say there's a three-way.
Yeah.
There's one agency that's probably got a 50-60%.
Yeah, so you're more like a 10%, but absolute outsider.
And then another way to think about it is, I think we can all convince ourselves about the brief comes in, or the proposal comes in. You go, we can win this, and you convince yourself as an agency or as an individual you convince yourself of all the reasons that you can win it and why you're a good fit. And it just doesn't add up. And I don't think people are honest enough about, here's all the reasons that we're not a good fit. And here's all the reasons why we're not going to win. And the reality is, if, let's say, a pitch is going to cost you, I don't know, £20,000 to win that piece of work. If I was to ask any of your employees, if you had to spend £20,000 of your own money to do this pitch, how comfortable or confident would you feel? And I think you'd get a very different answer. And I think we hide behind, the business. But if we were truly to put our money where our mouth is, I don't think we'd enter half the amount of pitches that we do. It's a gamble.
Yeah, totally. And I think that will really resonate with the listeners, the amount of pitches, no doubt, that our collective listeners have done and looked back and thought, we didn't really stand a chance. We convinced ourselves we did way more than we actually did. We were introduced as maybe just a number to get that third or second, depending on but the ones we have won, we think about the sort of commonality that they have and the themes, and then the ones we didn't win, the ones we nowhere near won. There's some patterns, isn't there, that you think you're just spending a lot of time, which resource money, ultimately you're wasting time and money, which is obviously what you've been helping us with, actually, for the last sort of 6 months or so. Which brings us nicely into the win without pitching methodology, which is what, a big part of what we wanted to get you here to talk about. Yeah. So obviously it's something we've embraced over this last year at our agency, been fairly transformational, I would say. Yeah. But I think for those that haven't heard of it, why does it work and what is it?
Good question. Win without pitching was started and continues to be run by a guy called Blair Enns, who's based in Canada. He wrote a book called, a good few years ago now, called The Win Without Pitching Manifesto, which was essentially a call to arms to the creative industry, which is we're doing things wrong. Yeah. As an industry, we are going about new business in completely the wrong way. And fundamentally, we are wasting so much money on pitching. We're giving away all of our value for free. So it kind of starts with that kind of, I guess, core thought. What Win Without Pitching today is essentially a sales training company for expert practitioners. What does that mean? It's a way of selling. It's a way of selling expertise.
So B2B.
A way of selling expertise before you can actually deliver it. We're not talking about selling products on the shelf here. Yeah. If we're in the agency game, we're in the business of selling expertise, and that does require a different way of selling. So what Win Without Pitching now is, and what I talk a lot about and what I worked with you on is the model called the 4 conversations for selling expertise. And it's a way of breaking down the sale into 4 distinct conversations and really putting the onus on the business to lead the client through that sale as the expert.
Yeah, rather than be led and be told, right, I need SEO and I need to do this and this, and this is what I need for 2 months. Well, that's just not a conversation you want to be having, is it? Or you don't want to be following that lead of conversation, yeah.
And I think, I would have put myself in this bracket from my agency days before I learnt, before I learnt kind of the frameworks, is none or very, very few of us are taught how to sell in a creative agency or a marketing agency or any sort of similar type business. Usually we get into that business because we're interested in the doing bit. It's where if you get into advertising because you want to create campaigns for the brand, or you get into design because you want to build brands and you want to design stuff. You don't get in to sell, and that really starts with the agency owners too. Because they created these businesses to do creative stuff.
Not the natural skill set, is it? The skill set is getting the results for the client, creating the creative, doing the ad campaigns, creating the whatever it may be.
And so what you then see happen is everybody, and I say everybody, there's exceptions of course, but everybody is just they're making it up as they go along. Yeah. They're going on gut feel.
Yeah.
They are winning, and of course they are winning new business, but there's a lot of winning it on personality, winning it on charm, building up relationships, a bit of guesswork. But, for most people working in an agency environment, there's not much of a plan when it comes to selling. And really that's what Win Without Pitching and the 4 conversations are all about, is giving you the tools just to still come to come to the sale as yourself.
So it's a framework.
It's a framework. It's a framework. It's a framework to follow.
Which it sounds almost like an actual framework for agencies that you can follow, that is sort of designed for agencies and other, obviously, professional services. Yep. So 4 conversations. I mean, the key is obviously probably in the name. There's 4 specific conversations that you ideally have. Yep. Maybe step us through those 4.
Yeah, that'd be good. 4 conversations. Conversation number 1, the probative conversation. The probative conversation is actually not a conversation that you have. It's typically a conversation that your business is having with the world with you not present.
So maybe somebody's listening to this podcast right now, and they've listened to lots of our podcasts and thought, you know what? These guys at Econ One and Agency Intensive, there's something there. Yeah. We've never met them. We've never heard of them, but they're looking at our stuff. They're peeping into our world of socials, some of our events maybe. So it's what you're doing.
It's everything that's basically enabling your business to show itself as an expert to the world. So it's your positioning, it's your thought leadership, it's your marketing, it's the events that you hold, it's the podcasts that you record. If your probative conversation is strong, your potential customers out there should start seeing you as the expert, the potential solution to their problems, rather than just another vendor. They should really see the difference in what you're doing versus.
That's the key words. Another vendor. If you're just another vendor, it's just a line item with no real relationship. You just that's a $5,000 thing over there. It's not a relationship building exercise. Potentially, it's a tick box. Right, we've got our SEO in place. Right, what's next? You're not really.
That's kind of it. And what does the probative conversation do? What we'll talk about is this idea of the flip happening. That your potential customer has been flipped. They now see you as the expert rather than the vendor. And that's a really powerful, that's a really powerful place to be.
Yeah.
Ideally, you don't want to be the vendor, when the client's saying to you, well, we can get that for cheaper from the agency next door, or we can find somebody else to do it. If they truly see you as the expert, they lean into you. They want to hear how you might be able to help them. Yeah. So that's the probative conversation. Yeah. Conversation number 1. Could say a lot more about that, but conversation number 2, the qualifying conversation. This conversation is the very first in-person conversation that you're going to have with the client. Yeah. The purpose of this conversation is to vet the opportunity. Yeah. Is there actually an opportunity here between us two? Are we potentially a good fit for each other? I think there's a skill in qualifying, and what we're really trying to uncover is a few key things, which we can maybe talk about in a minute, but there's a few key things in that qualifying conversation that are really going to help us to determine whether we should move forward together. Yeah. So that's conversation number 2. Conversation number 3, the value conversation. The value conversation is we're trying to uncover what's the value that we can create for the client beyond what they've just asked for. What are the metrics by which that would be determined? What would success look like? How much might the client pay for that value and that value creation? Yeah. And then we can obviously retreat and think about what would a proposal look like. Yeah. And then finally, it's the closing conversation. Yeah. How do you actually close the deal? Yeah. In between value and closing, we have the act of creating the proposal. Yeah. It's not a conversation, but that's where we start thinking about, what are our ideas for solving this problem? Yeah. That's the 4 conversations. It sounds straightforward.
Very straightfortard, but the way you say it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. These things should be simple. They should be applicable. Often, I sort of joke, we're not teaching rocket science here. Yeah. But if we go back to the idea that most people in creative businesses don't have a framework for sales, actually just having a simple framework is a game changer.
Something to call on, to go through, to step through. So Conversation one, we've touched on that.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it, as the name suggests, is very conversational, asking specific questions, and ultimately guiding the process to, there's a sort of a systematic way of working with people and talking with prospects and see if they're a fit. If they're a fit, then proposing something that's really going to help them, but ultimately then closing them from that presentation. So you like to ask a lot of very specific types of questions. I know one question you asked me when we started working together is a question that I know you believe everybody should ask their prospect. Step us through that question.
Yeah, essentially the question is as close as this to possible. But Richard, we're having coffee 3 years from now. What's happened in that time to make you happy?
What did I say? Can you remember?
I want to be a multimillionaire or something like that.
Oh, another million. No.
I want to be on the beach with a daiquiri or something.
I think the beach daiquiri was somewhere in there.
But there is something magic in this question. It sounds like it's a bit of a funny question, or some people think, oh, that feels a bit awkward. Somebody's just asked me for a website. Why am I asking this big question? But the point of the question is, so often the client will come to us with something quite tactical, immediate that they need.
Yeah.
I need a website. I need a film. I need a new logo, whatever it might be. I need a quick SEO campaign for Christmas, whatever. But usually that ask is immediate and tactical. And so one solution to that is we just provide the client exactly, no problem. We can do that for you.
That's one way to do it.
That's one way to do it. And we can, and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But there's maybe a better way, which is when we've got the client in our hands right now, is to ask that question and really try and move the client from thinking about the tactical stuff.
Yeah.
Also that they've diagnosed their own problem and prescribed their own solution to say that this is what we need. So we haven't even really questioned that. But if we ask this big question, we get a much, much more interesting answer. And it's quite an open question. I'm not asking you.
Yeah, there's no definition exactly.
What is happy to you? And it's different for every person. But if we ask this question well, and it's not just asking the question once, you give me a response and I can dig into it and dig into it and dig into it and hopefully draw out a super interesting picture.
Yeah.
And in that answer that you give me, there's potential opportunity. Yeah. It's not to say that the dream picture that you give me, I can deliver all of that as an agency, but I might be able to deliver a percentage of it or some part of it later on. So we're just trying to move the client away from short-term thinking, just something bigger. And that question really is a thread that runs through the conversations. It happens in the qualifying conversation. Yeah. We check in on it again in the value conversation.
Yeah.
When I think about my proposal, one of my options is going to be my best response to that answer versus a website is just, you can have a website for
website's this, but you talked about this 3-year picture, which is this. And it's a brilliant, I think it's just I think everyone now is no doubt is thinking about this question now because immediate thought is, okay, well, I came to talk about this maybe, but actually if you just pause for a minute, there's a lot more on most people's minds about in 3 years, do I want to be saying it, making every single phone call if it's an agency that's listening in, so, well, I want to get some structure in place, so I'm better at it, but then I want somebody else to do it within the business, or I'm that person who's already got somebody else doing that thing, but you want them to get better at it and scale that department, so I can do other things within the business or do less in the business. But then that means that I can do this, and then you start thinking about family and where you're living, and I can go and that's where I sort of go, and
that's where you go, but somebody else will go somewhere different. Yeah. But I think that question that you asked me at the beginning, what are some of the big challenges? Some of the big challenges now are making money.
Yeah.
And when you have a potential client in front of you, there's opportunity there, so you can serve them the thing that they need. Or there's the opportunity to make more and deliver more value and create more opportunity from those opportunities that you have in front of you, if that makes sense.
You just you're going back to that question of you then got the opportunity to be the expert because you're not just somebody has just come along and said, right, I need a new website. And you go, okay, it's 18 pages, 40 grand or whatever. That's all nonsense. It's like, I understand. And actually the website is one part of this opportunity. which we'll come to. They come to you for one thing, but ultimately that's like an order taker, isn't it? An order taker is a certain skill.
Yeah.
But if you can take that order and turn it into, 3 or 4 times what they came to maybe spend with you initially, because you've looked at the opportunity, you've understood that business and looked at areas where, you can help maybe that 70, 80%. Maybe other people in your network that can do other things, and you've built that sort of, more of a holistic package for them with what you do and maybe somebody else. And you give them, you've gone from maybe a 3-month project to a 3-year, retainer or something. Yeah.
It's the difference, I think, between, it is the difference between an expert and a vendor. A vendor will give you what you ask for, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
An expert is going to really try and look at the bigger picture. And it comes up a lot when we do the training, and you can use it in many different ways with this. I've talked to you about it before, but the doctor analogy.
Yeah.
Another version of that, the doctor analogy here is like, you come into the doctor's surgery with a symptom. The doctor can give you some immediate drugs now to fix that thing. But a good GP is really going to look at your whole self and think about, well, what's really going on here, and what's causing this to happen, and what if we did this, and what if we did this, and so that you're not going to come back here in 6 weeks' time needing another prescription. We're actually going to try and fix you.
Yeah.
Fix you properly. Yeah. And it's quite a nice way of thinking about
that doctor's going to be, he's thinking about. So expert, not vendor.
Expert, not vendor. And always ask yourself with expert and vendor is, the client or the potential client can only see you as one.
Yeah.
They either see you as the expert or they see you as the vendor.
Yeah.
There's no in between. It's binary. Yeah. Ask yourself, how is this client seeing me? Yeah. If they're seeing you as the vendor, then you've maybe got a bit of work to do to try and move yourself into the expert seat. If they see you as your expert, don't get complacent. You can fall back into vendor.
Yeah.
And to just keep making sure that everything that you do is sort of, leading your client, and you're always sitting in that expert seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the tricks, isn't it? To be the expert and remain the expert, not let them lead, not let them, right, I need this, and no. So it's asking a good set of questions, which is sort of the framework.
Yeah, and just being conscious of where you are in this. I think a lot of this is about, I talked about it at the beginning of this, is asking those questions. What are all the reasons why we're not going to win this?
Yeah.
It's asking yourself more honest questions about, where are we in this process right now?
Yeah.
What are all the reasons we're not going to win? Am I the expert or am I the vendor? Because then if you start asking yourself these questions, you can change the outcome.
So we've got the framework.
Yeah.
We've got the conversations, but I think one of the conversations that a lot of people struggle with is money, and pricing. Another one of our guests who we do quite a lot of work with as well, what he's saying is, if you're not comfortable talking about money, you'll never have any sort of thing. He says it a lot more eloquently than that, but ultimately, so having those conversations around the pricing, obviously the fourth conversation, is very much, the close. But ultimately, you have got to be confident in the way that you present pricing, and you've touched on a few things there. Obviously, potentially in some instances, they come, a client will come to you or come to the people that are listening, right, I'm looking for SEO, and our budget is this, and you've found out the budget because we've asked the right questions. We've got to make sure there's a budget there that aligns with us as a business. But then, there's some bits in the middle, but then ultimately, we're then presenting our price and our offer. What advice would you give to our listeners around pricing, pricing with 4 conversations in mind?
Yeah, good question. I could probably say a lot about this. Just as you were talking there, the first thing that came into my mind was no surprises. And what I mean by that is, so often, even if the client's given you a number, you haven't committed to giving the client something for that number. So you go away and you do all your clever work and come up with a big proposal and all the ideas that are going to go into the proposal. And then you get to the proposal day and it's time to present to the client.
50 hours later of work.
And you've done all of this work and there's been maybe a bit of back and forth with the client, whatever, but you're now in the room virtually or in person with the client and you start taking them through your deck. And it's the usual story of, here's a bit about us, here's a bit about you, here's the idea, here's the strategy, here's the insight, here's the idea. But all along, you probably in your presenting are thinking, we still haven't got to the money. We still haven't got to the money.
Yeah.
We still haven't got to the money. And now the client's also thinking in that moment,
how much is it?
How much is this going to cost? This is great, but how much is it going to cost? So there's this, and then you get to the moment and you probably don't deliver it brilliantly and you tell them the number. And I mean, one option is it's okay. Or the other option is we do not have that sort of money, and they kind of fall off their chair and you've wasted all of that time. So when I said no surprises, what we should be doing through the sale is from the very first qualifying conversation, what level of investment do you have for this? Hopefully they give you a number. If they don't give you a number, you give them a number. You'll say projects like this typically range from X to Y. In the next conversation, the value conversation, we're talking again. And we're thinking bigger, but you might say to the client, so let's say the client has told us they've got 30,000. We will guarantee to give them something for 30,000. We will always give them something for their money. We'll let them know that. So they can be reassured that whilst we might show them some other stuff.
At the end of the process.
So will be something for your budget.
What you've said. But we'll also have a look at other things. And then we'll refer back to the 3-year discussion.
At the end of the value conversation, we'll say something like, okay, I'm going to go away and create a proposal. I'm going to come back with options ranging from 250,000 and I'll give you something for your budget of 30,000. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay, because they're going to have something for their budget. Then when we get to the closing, there is no surprise. When you go back to them and say, so today I've got 3 options ranging, maybe this time from 200, not 250 to 30,000. The client's going, that's what we agreed. So trying to take surprise out of the money and telling the client what you're doing is going to save a lot of stress.
If you're with us now, just pause the podcast and rewind it 5 minutes, because this will save you a lot of time, a lot of pain, a lot of effort, a lot of wasted time, having those trickier conversations up front to understand budget.
It's tricky, but to your point, it's I know it's tricky. But another thing I would say is it's not the client's money. Their personal money. So I'm not asking, very rarely, unless it's a founder of a very small business, but on the whole, you're asking people in a business how much is their business willing to spend. That's a different conversation than asking the individual, can I have £100,000 of your own money? So they're not as attached to that money as you might think they are. And just, we can only move forward to this process if we can have open, honest conversations about money. We're not trying to rip you off. We just want it's our job to deliver maximum value. If you tell me you've got 30,000, I will tell you everything that we can do for 30,000 to give you maximum value.
I think, how many times have our listeners presented this piece and even the lowest option is like, we haven't got that, or to words of those effect.
And it's embarrassing.
We've all spent a lot of time, a lot of resource, and ultimately both sides are very deflating, isn't it? So great advice. So we've got options. Any sort of maybe deeper advice on the options? We've got a price that is the price that we understood was the budget, and then we've got maybe a couple of other options.
Okay, so there's, like with all of your questions, I could spend an hour on them. If I could say maybe one thing about options are magic. I shall say 2 things about options. If you only present one option, so let's we go back to our 30,000. Richard, the budget for this, or the price for this, is going to be £30,000. All you can really say to that is, thanks very much, I'll get back to you. I'll go back and consider. There is no conversation to be had. If I give you 3 options, I'll talk you through my 3 options. At the end of that, I can now say to you, Richard, which of these options makes the most sense to you? Which options are you liking? Which feel challenging? But we can have a much more strategic conversation around the options. So you're not just retreating, saying, thanks very much, I'll get back to you. We can now talk about the pros and cons of the options. And we're having quite a different conversation compared to what the other agencies or businesses might be having with the same client. It's a really interesting conversation when you present options. And even in your head as the client, you're thinking, I like a bit of that one. I like a bit of that one. Could we have that one with a bit of that one?
Bingo.
And so we're getting the client in a different mindset. If I could say one more thing about options, I would say it is not bronze, silver, gold. Options are not bronze, silver, gold. It's not good, better, best. It's not small, medium, large fries. All of these things suggest that you're giving me stuff that I don't need. It also, like if we go back to bronze, silver, gold, you as the agency aren't going to feel very happy about selling bronze.
Yeah.
The client doesn't want bronze.
No.
So the way that I would frame options is, here's 3 great but different ways that we could work together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we present these options much more objectively, without judgment.
Yeah.
And we just say, look, we've gone away, we've thought about it. Here's 3 really great ways of working together. Which of these makes the most sense to you?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to judge them, because also we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes of that business.
Yeah.
They may love option C, the big one, but they may not have the cash flow to pay for it. Yeah. And we don't know all of these things. So we don't know all of the factors, that would
so they're all,
make a decision.
They're all going to work in varying degrees. Yep. They're all great. The first one is a great option. It's not the bronze. Oh, you got third play. Mm-hmm. It's a great option. It's an option that, we discussed, and, when you said about your budget, that is the option for that budget, and it's a great option.
Yeah.
However, when we spoke, we talked about the 3-year plan and vision, where you said he wanted to do this or he wanted to do that. So we've taken that into account. Mm-hmm. And there's an option that does that, and looks at this and this and this and adds this in. And then there's a third option for this real aspirational option, which is, from 30K to 150K, which is that's a big difference, but that may go back to the powers that be, or the budget controllers, and go, well, actually, we have been thinking about doing that, and we've seen, back to our agency, presenting these options. It's very rare that they go for the first option. Very rare.
Yeah, and people like to.
It's not uncommon to go for second, third option, but it's very common for them to go, well, we really like option 2, we really like option 3, but we're maybe 2 with a bit of 3, and all of a sudden that 30K is now 70K.
Yep.
But it's not. You maybe didn't have a 70K option, but you've created an option.
Yep.
Because you've understood, you've listened, you've had those very fairly lengthy conversations around understanding what their aspirations and where they are and what they've got in the business and where they hopefully can go. And actually, there's another way to help them with this, this, and this. So we put that into an option. That's not maybe what they came for in their mind straight away, but now they realise that actually you know what you're talking about, and you've done it before. And you've maybe mentioned in some of the conversations about similar things you've worked on.
They're also a great way to. They're also a great way to reframe how the client sees your business. Sometimes clients really love to pigeonhole us. They go, "This business is just good for that."
Yeah.
So maybe that you don't sell option B or C right now. That's fine, but you might also get the response, "Oh, we didn't realize that you did that." Yeah. So just over time, you can maybe just start shifting perception through showing what you really are capable of, even if they only go for the lower option right now, because for time, for budget, for whatever reason, but you're starting to drop seeds that actually, as a business, you're capable of a lot more.
So we've got to get a budget from them.
Yep.
And we're going to present something that is thereabouts that budget as the start point.
We always give them something for their money if we go through the process. Yep.
And then there's 2 other options.
Yep.
Based on the conversation you've had. It's easy, guys. Come on. It's easy when you've been working with Aaron for a year. That's what I'll say. So something else you talk about is RAB.
Yep.
And RAB, something you've been hammering home to us. So for those that are going, RAB, what the hell's RAB? I thought that was a brand of jackets. What's RAB, and what some of the steps that our listeners can take to improve RAB?
This is something that I love. RAB, RAB, stands for revenue above budget. So when the client comes to you with £30,000, and through your options, you eventually sell it for £100,000.
Yeah,
we're calculating the difference. In this instance, 70,000.
Yeah,
so we've got £70,000 of RAB, revenue above budget. It's just a great number to track.
Yeah,
and what it tells me is, and I've been thinking more about this number recently, but at a business level, if your RAB, so calculate it over a year, track it, every opportunity that comes in, what was the client's stated budget? What did you close it for? What was the client's stated budget? What did you close it for? Calculate that difference. What does it mean? If that number is 0 at the end of the year, to me, it just means that you're a very good waiter. You're a very good order taker.
Yeah.
It's essentially, can we have something for 20,000? Yep. 20,000. Can we have something for 30,000? Yep. 30,000.
Sell them the dessert.
We're not selling that. We're not doing anything other than just giving the client what they want. Yeah. If that number looks like 100, 200, 300,000, 400,000, a million, whatever, that tells me that you are leading the client. You are selling like an expert.
Yeah.
You are offering more value. You're creating opportunity. You're giving the client things that they didn't even realize that they needed. It's also maybe an interesting number for an individual in the business to track. So if you're on the sales team or an account team, track your personal RAB. What a great number at the end of the year to go back to your boss with and go, when you're asking for your pay rise, by the way, all of the opportunities that came across my door, I created 200,000 of revenue above budget for this business. That shows to me that you've got a growth mindset.
Yeah, it's a great thing to track, because ultimately, an inquiry comes in, 50K, you sell them 150, you've got this 100K difference. You do that over a year for X amount of deals and pipeline that comes through. The difference between an order taker and a real strong salesperson that spots opportunity, can work and communicate very, very well with prospects to help them better. That's the difference, big difference between major success and maybe mediocre.
I would say about that number as well is it's a magic number, but it becomes more magic if you can make that extra more profitable. Hopefully it is, because the solutions that you're selling have a higher value, so it becomes less around selling time and minutes and more about strategic solutions that you can charge more for. So I would also like to see, not only is your RAB going up, but the profit on that work is higher than your more vendor type work.
So I feel like we've covered a lot of ground very, very quickly. Obviously, we've been working with you for about a year now with our sales team and our account management team, and with some of these things you've talked about, we've done days training on. So I think we've been very, very quick to step through. That's the nature of the podcast. But obviously, we can reach out to Aaron after the session and speak more on the details. But I think something that obviously we've hired a few people in sales. I've always been in sales my whole life. Sales can be tough. Really, really tough. I think especially agency sales. It's selling a high value item, tens and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of service. What advice would you give to those that are maybe having a tough time, for staying resilient, staying motivated, keep on going? What's the sort of your go-to?
In terms of staying resilient and, kind of the mental health of the agency and the people inside it, there's nothing more depressing and soul destroying than working on work that's futile. There's working on work that you're never going to win. There's working on coming into the office and spending late nights putting the pitch deck together, going in full of hope to present it, for it to get the email that says, sorry, we've decided to go in a different direction. And for that to happen time and time again, I just think that is not good for anybody. I think like I said, it's a little soul destroying. And I think that, in terms of making you more resilient, that can't help. So what's the alternative? Well, not to stop pitching, but really to think about your odds in a given pitch. And really make sure that if you're going to enter into that, you're the business with the inside track. If you're the one with the inside track, you're the one with the inside track. I was speaking to a client. He was asking for some advice the other day. And he said, what do you think about this situation? The client's asking us for more. But he said, essentially, there's one other agency, but he said, the client has said to me, look, if you can just do this for me, it's in the bag. So he's got strong feelings that he's got the inside track. The other agency isn't being told this. So if it's you. What else would I say to make you more resilient? I mean, this comes down to the business itself, but it's really, really hard when you don't know who you're targeting. When you don't know who your ideal client is. It's virtually impossible. I've often described it, that feeling when this is insight into my life, but you sit down and you think, right, I'm going to watch some Netflix tonight, and you sit down on the sofa and you fire up Netflix, and then you think, I don't know, I don't know what to watch here. There's too much choice.
You're heading my front room.
And then that's when I start scrolling on TikTok, and I just give up on Netflix. But I think often your business can be a bit like that. If you don't know where you're going, so if I could say to myself, right, I'm going to watch a sports documentary tonight. Okay, a straight sports documentary, I'll pick one. It's easy. So I think with new business, we need that. Who's my ideal client? And then we start chasing. Let's start targeting and speaking to and writing content for those people, because otherwise we just get frozen. It's just, and then you just sort of I could come up with all sorts of.
So there's two main takeaways there that I see. You know, ultimately, I think an inquiry comes in or a potential bit of business comes in, and you've got to have an honest conversation with yourself. Do we stand a bloody chance with this? Are we just a 5%, 10%, 3%, or whatever it may be, and it's not a fit? Are we going to spend? How much time are we going to spend on it? But then it also comes down to having that framework in place, which is what we've been discussing. You know, we're not going to spend then 3 days creating a presentation. We're going to spend time having conversations. So getting very, 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 very good
Always
conversations, not presentations. I think the listeners would be astounded to know that we do not use decks anymore in our sales process. We use, we may have 3 slides.
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
Tools, not presentations, right?
Frameworks, and so conversations. And then a very specific way to lay out the pricing, but conversations. And then you're not spending the 3 days on the deck, and ultimately you're just running through a deck, and you've lost them on slide 82, and so forth. But then going back to that, targeting those ICPs, I think that's where a lot of agencies make that mistake. They're just trying to be everything to everybody, which is sort of the golden rule of agencies. Successful agencies are usually very, very focused on a type of ICP or industry.
Yeah, and I know, like for myself, I know my ICP is independent creative companies, up to a certain size. I am not although I could work with them, but I'm not going to spend time or any energy targeting a big 3,000 person agency. If they want to come and talk to me, I will happily talk to them. But having a really clear mind, clear direction in terms of, sometimes when I'm, the dreaded having to write the LinkedIn post, and I'm stood in the shower, it's just like, thinking about what's my LinkedIn, who's my LinkedIn post for the day. Then it's just like, well, what does somebody like Richard want to hear? Or, and it's just like being really clear about that, and writing to one person sounds obvious, but if, and then through that, interesting opportunities still come to you. It doesn't mean that just because you're targeting one specific group, like again, in my own experience as a consultant, I only target creative businesses. I'm starting training with a legal firm next week. I'm speaking to an architect's firm.
I've been targeted them because they've liked some of the peripheral
they've seen
conversation that's out there.
My probative conversation, it takes time. It takes a couple of years. It takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight. But people go, oh, that's interesting. I'd love to hear more about that. Maybe I could apply that to my business. Exactly. And that's the same in agency world. So don't be worried about positioning more tightly. The opportunity will still come.
Well, I feel that this episode could be a double, triple, quad. This is a topic that, I'm sort of fascinated with and spend a lot of my working life in. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I like to end every episode with a book recommendation. Do you have a book to recommend to our agency leaders out there?
It would be remiss of me not to recommend The 4 Conversations by Blair Enns. It really is. I work with this book all of the time, and I teach the 4 conversations. But if you've ever been interested in Win Without Pitching and how it actually works and how you can apply it to your business, the 4 conversations is actually a really hands-on book that it tells you how to do it. It's obviously not as good as training, but it's a good starting point in terms of a really practical hands-on book in terms of, and so much of what I've talked about today is in that book. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I mean, that's how this all started, really. We sort of made aware of the book, and then we're made aware of Aaron, and here we are, a year or so later, and it's actually quite a nice read in terms of, it's not like that, is it? It's quite a quick, very readable, split up, broken up into the 4 conversations, but it's very digestible and probably a 1 or 2 sittings, really, I think. So it's quite So thank you for coming on the show. For those that want to find out more about what you do or consultancy, what's the best way to do that and reach out to you?
2 ways. You can come to my own website, which is the Hutch Consultancy. The website is thehutch.co, or go to Win Without Pitching, winwithoutpitching.com, and find out more about the Win Without Pitching program.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast, so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.